Welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Sebbing. Today we are starting the mini block of the month. I'm really excited for this. This is a way to bring the block of the month to people who either can't afford to buy fabric for a king size quilt or don't have the time to commit to a year-long block of the month. We're going to be making 3 block designs over 3 months this summer. It is 16 blocks in total, and the quilt size is going to finish 60 inches square. So it's got some perfect, beautiful fall colors in it. So we're going to finish up right in August, so you'll be able to get that quilted up and on your couch for September, so you can enjoy it all fall. Make sure you go to quiltaddictsanonymous.com to make sure you're signed up to get all the email announcements of when the free patterns come out. It's going to be the 3rd Monday of every month throughout the summer. And there will be free printable instructions as always for all the blocks. This first month we're going to start out doing log cabin blocks. These are really fun for fall, and we're going to use Marty Michelle's method for cutting, and that makes it go together really stably. There isn't that much stretching of the fabric when you cut it the way Marty Michelle has developed for the log cabin block. And it also goes really quick. I mean, I can cut an entire section of block in just a few minutes using this method versus, cutting it kind of as you go, and then it makes it take a long time. So I've already cut my piece, and then I'm also folding it in half so that the selvage is hanging off a little bit here, and then I have my fold line here because I'm going to cut just above where this fold line is. And I don't want to get that selvage in my final piece because I don't want to sew on that. I'm also making sure that my edges are aligned nicely since I've already cut that nice and straight. Now I need to cut several 2.5 inch strips. What I'm doing here is I'm lining up and squaring up an edge here with an inch line on my ruler. And then I'm making sure that my 2.5 inch mark is well away from where that fold line is. Then I can just put my hand down to hold the ruler steady and cut across. And I can flip that around as well for this first one. Let's move that up a little bit so you can see a little better. If you're moving fabric, you want to make sure that it goes back in the same spot, so you may need to do a little bit of adjusting as you do this. Alright, now I've got my 2.5 inch line lined up with that edge I just cut. My edges are also in line. And so now I have my first 2.5 inch by 15 inch strip. I'm going to set that aside for right now. And now I'm just going to keep going up the line here, cutting 2.5 inch strips. And what this does, instead of cutting across the width of fabric, it makes for a lot sturdier log cabin block because this doesn't stretch as much when you're cutting it this way. So I think I can get about 2 more out of this. You only need to get 3 for the beige and orange fabrics, but you will need the full 4 from the neutral background. Alright, so now I have all my pieces, and now I can actually cut them up. So all the measurements, if you follow the diagram on your pattern and your free printable instructions, you'll see that they all add up to 15 inches square. So in this case, I have 12.5 inches that I'm lining up over here, and then I'm going to make sure everything's good and square, cut that off. And now I have a nice little 2.5 inch piece that I can use for that log cabin center. So now I'm going to do the same thing here, but this time I'm cutting, this time I'm cutting at 10.5 inches. So I have my 10.5 lined up here, and everything's nice and square. I cut that, and now I have my 4.5 inch piece. And this is really a fast way of cutting because you're cutting 4 at a time, so you're able to cut everything you need for all 8 blocks all at once. So it's really pretty slick. Marty Michelle was pretty smart when she came up with this. Alright, so now I have 8.5 inches here, and everything's nice and square. Cut that off, and now I also have my 6.5 inch piece. So that's it. Now I've cut all my pieces that I need from this fabric in order to make my log cabin block. I can stack all these up so you can kind of see. And just in that length of time, we cut all of our pieces for this little beige fabric out of, for 8 blocks. And so go ahead and do the same thing for the orange, and then refer to your diagram as well, because you don't necessarily need all these pieces from the neutral background. So make sure you refer to your free printable instructions so you cut the right amount of strips from the right fabrics. Once you have everything cut, you're going to want to lay it out according to your directions in your free printable diagram. And keep in mind there are 2 different colorways for this block, that beige and orange are going to alternate on half of the blocks. So in one half, the beige is going to be on the outside and the inside, and in the other half, the orange will be. And it looks really pretty when we put it all together. So now everything goes really fast. I know a lot of times when you do my block of the month, there's a lot of triangles, and there will be for this quilt, but for this one, it's really just straightforward seams from this point on. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab my first. And I like to lay everything out like this because then I know everything's in the right spot. Otherwise, it's really easy for me to just do the wrong thing and sew the wrong part together. So I actually would just chain piece all of these. I'm not for the video just because of time, but I would just do, like, I finished my one here, so I would just go grab another and chain piece all of them all at once. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to go ahead and press this now, so that way you can see how one entire block comes together. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and press to the dark, which is the inside in this case. That might change depending on what type of log cabin block you're putting together, but for me in this instance, that's what I'm going to do. So now I'm kind of laying that back down where we started, and now I need to put this next one together. So I'm just going to flip that right sides together and bring that back over to the sewing machine. Now the beauty of sewing this way is it really leaves for really accurate piecing when you cut everything the way Marty Michelle tells you. And if you really like this method, she's got a whole lot of rulers that make this process a lot easier. But for this first one, you can definitely just do it with your regular set of rulers. So now I've just sewn that together. Now it's time to press again. But again, if I were doing all these, I would just chain piece them all and knock them out in an hour or so. Alright, now this time I'm going to press away from the seam that I just sewed. Alright, so we've got that together. So now I can see that this is my next piece. So I can lay that right on top. And really, my seams are pretty right on. That isn't always the case when you do log cabin blocks if you don't cut them this way. But these are pretty right on, and I'm going to end up with a really square block. So you can see in this close-up just how right on those seams are by using this method. So now we've gotten to the point to where there's 2 seams on the side that we need to sew. That hasn't happened before, but when you get to the last one in your first row around the center, that's what happens. So now we know that every time I add something, there's always going to be 2 seams on the side that needs to be added. So if you're ever unsure and you think you might sew to the wrong part, that's the one you want to do. So I'm just going to go ahead ahead and keep sewing round and round. Each time I'm going to bring it back to that center so that way I can see where my next piece is supposed to be. Press that open and then sew the next one on. We'll do a little bit of fast forward so you can see this block go together each step of the way, but really you just go round and round until your block is done. Well, this is it. The entire June mini block of the month went together in maybe like 10-15 minutes or so. Really quick. Remember, there's a second colorway that you need to make of this. And I'll have images of both of them on the website tutorial to go with this, as well as on your free printable instructions, which you can get at quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Really easy peasy first block to kick this off. I know it's summer and we're busy, but really you can get these together maybe in 2 hours by the time you cut everything up as well. If you love these fabrics, you can get them as a kit. There are several left at quiltaddictsanonymous.com. You can purchase them there. It's really economical. You can get the backing there as well. And it's just beautiful hand-dyed fabrics from Majestic Boutiques. They're gorgeous. I love them. I use their fabrics in all of my kits because I think that they're just so beautiful. Thanks for following along and happy quilting!